Okay, so in this part one for our first Revit project, we're going to work on a residential building. And it is a building that has been taken from the Appalachian Energy Center's Passive Solar Handbook. So I'm just going to give a little background on the building and I'll make sure to let you know when you can actually start following along within it. But the Appalachian Energy Center has the Affordable Passive Solar Plan Book, which has 12 different houses in here available for download with PDFs of their construction documents as well as DWG AutoCAD files for it. And we, in this video series, are going to work on the Mountain Laurel or the Mount Laurel. And so on As You Learn, I've given you 2 copies of the Mount Laurel AutoCAD DWG file. One of them is just the original, and one of them is a cleaned up version, and then a PDF copy of the documents as well. So I'm just going to download this PDF of our construction document and open it up. And so it's just a 6-page document here with some details related to foundations as well as a foundation plan. But really the only view that we need out of all of these various views in order to help build out our Revit model is the floor plan for the building. Because you'll see even with a lot of these section details going on, or in this case, these are plan details of how our walls are getting connected, is we have different options going on for it. Because it can get constructed a couple of different ways. Just like our foundation, we could have a T-sill foundation, we could have a slab on grade foundation, we could have a complete slab foundation, monolithic slab in there. So we have a couple of different options of what we could do depending on where we're building. And since we're just designing for a sort of make-believe area, we can sort of make some choices of our own. But really, we're only going to need this floor plan drawing, and then the elevations and the roof slope will kind of get built out throughout that Revit model since it is just that comprehensive 3D model going on in it. Now, within the AutoCAD files, we have our original DWG. So I'm just going to download that and open it up. Looks like I've already downloaded it, but I'll download it again. It may tell you that there's a reference file missing, so things like these images here essentially are what they're telling us are missing. We can just say ignore it. And if I go back into my model space, we have all of the various views. We've got our floor plan with all of our dimensions included, and we've got all of our elevations in here. But like I said, we don't really need all of this extra stuff. So what I've done in that cleaned file is I've essentially selected so much of my drawing here and just hit the delete key to delete it. So I've gotten rid of essentially all of this for you in that cleaned file. But even more so, there's some things in here within this floor plan that we could remove, and it's going to make it a lot easier to work with in Revit. So if I download the cleaned file and I open that one up real quick to look at, we can ignore that again. You can see that I've really taken out most of like the annotative work. I've taken out the dimensions. I've taken out a lot of our other drawing references, our elevation markers, our section markers. So that way I just have the floor plan itself to go over. Now, while we're working in Revit, I will have open on a second screen. So I'm working on a dual monitor system right now. So on a second screen, I will have a copy of the floor plan open that has like the dimensions and some tags. So when I go to like put the door in and I need to know how big the door is, this door, for instance, is 2'4" by 6'8". Or when I go and dimension everything later on, instead of having to go back and forth between the 2 files, I'm just going to have both files open on my screens simultaneously. So I just want to make you aware of that for when you're wondering, where is she getting that number from? I'm getting it from the original drawing. I'm just not necessarily opening and closing and opening and closing for it. So I'm just going to move my AutoCAD to my other screen. And then I'm now going to start my project. So I've given you a template file here an RTE. This is a Revit template, and they work like AutoCAD templates as well, the DWTs. And in that template file, I'm hoping I've set it up to have kind of all of the different wall types, floor types, roofs, windows, doors, etc. that we might need. Pretty sure I did it, but I could have forgotten something, so let's cross our fingers and hope. But now that we're going to start, just like when we're working with an AutoCAD template, we want to just download this RTE file. You can open it in the same window or a new window, it's not going to matter. You don't want to click on it to open it. Instead, you're going to go into Revit and you're going to create a new Revit model. You're going to browse for a template file and then look in your downloads folder for the Mount Laurel template. Then you'll open that up. Mine's going to take a little bit longer because I'm working in Revit 26 and the template was made in 25. Yours should open a little bit faster. But then we've got our Revit template set up. Now, often when you first ever open Revit, you've got a small properties bar here and a small project browser here. I'm going to just click on where it says project browser and just drag this out and then lock it into place on the other side, on the right side of my screen. I just prefer working with a lot larger properties panel and a larger project browser. Additionally, I'm going to recommend that you download and install my Revit keyboard shortcuts, so that way we can just make sure that we're using the same keyboard shortcuts for when I call them out, because a few of them are ones that I've added or customized. So back on As You Learn, there is a file in the assignment that says keyboard shortcuts. We're just going to, again, download that. You can open it in the same window or new window. It's not going to matter. And then back in Revit, you're going to type the command keyboard shortcut, which is KS, and that'll open up this window. Or you can go into the View tab up at the top and then click on User Interface and then Keyboard Shortcuts. And you're going to import keyboard shortcuts. And when we click on Import, again, you can look in your Downloads folder. And then you're just going to import that Dynabeatrice Miller keyboard shortcuts. When it asks if you want to merge or overwrite, I would recommend clicking on Overwrite. And then we can click OK to start. So what we'll do to begin our drawing is making sure that we have our Mount Laurel cleaned file downloaded. So on As You Learn, download this cleaned DWG. If you want to download the original, that's okay too, but just download that cleaned file. And then back in Revit, we're going to go into the Inserts tab. And then you can either choose to link a CAD file or import a CAD file. I would recommend linking a CAD file because it keeps the two files separate. But then the benefit is if you make any changes in the AutoCAD file later on, they get updated in here, as well as it will keep this file a little bit lighter, so it'll run a little bit faster. So I'm going to click on Link CAD, and then I'm going to go look in my Downloads folder, and I'm going to bring in this BSC 1210 Mount Laurel cleaned file. We could select layers we want, so I could actually have brought this in by just only selecting the layers I want to bring in instead of cleaning it in AutoCAD. But since I've already cleaned it up, I can have it say all, and I'm also just going to let it detect the units from my AutoCAD file. And so I'm going to click on Open. It's going to look like nothing happened once it loads in, so once that blue circle goes away. But if I just use my scroll wheel to just zoom out, my file is just up here, and I want to bring my floor plan to be roughly centered in these 4 elevation markers. If I try to click to drag it though, if I try to click on it and drag it by just holding down my mouse. It's not moving because I need to first click on this pin to unpin it, and then I can move it into place. So I'm just going to click and drag it and just roughly eyeball it in between my 4 markers there. My next step is I'm going to go around and I'm going to trace all of my walls in here. So I'm going to first do all of my exterior walls, and then I'm also going to go through and trace my interior walls as well. So I'm going to go back into the architecture tab, and I can start the wall tool by either keyboard shortcut WA will start the wall tool, or by clicking on this button right here, we'll start the wall tool. I always want to pay attention to my base constraints and my top constraints, as well as my wall type here. So I'm going to do all my exterior walls first. So I'm just going to click on my wall type, and I'm going to choose this exterior wall Mount Laurel. All of the wall types and floors as well that I've made for you have this 0, 0 in the front and the Mount Laurel at the end. I put the 0, 0 in the front so that way they would be at the top of the list, hopefully making them easier to find. So I'm going to use my exterior wall with a base constraint of level 1, and I'm going to give this a top constraint of up to level 2. And then I'm going to just trace around all my exterior walls. So I'm just going to start on my center there. Make sure you go over your windows. So see how I just put that wall all the way over it? I'm going to go down, back over. I'm not measuring anything necessarily. I'll go back later and add measurements. And then I'll close it. And then once I'm all done with my exterior walls, I can hit escape 700 times. So make sure you're going over all your doors and over all your windows, because doors and windows are wall-based components. So we can't put a door in unless there's a wall there for it. Next, I'm going to do all of my interior walls. So I'm going to start the wall tool again, which is keyboard shortcut WA. For my interior walls, I'm going to switch over to my 0, 0 interior wall Mount Laurel. So I'll click up here, and then I'll select my interior wall. I'm going to, again, use a base constraint of level 1 and a top constraint of up to level 2. And then I'm just going to roughly trace around my interior walls. If I'm all done with that chain and I want to just start over, I can hit escape once. And then I can start with a new wall. And again, Revit's going to connect all of these walls for us, which is pretty cool. So I'll hit escape once. It's going to kind of trim everything out. I'll go down to this closet, back up, put in this closet wall, escape. So I'm just tracing over all my interiors. And sometimes I'm hitting escape once just to end the command, or at least end that chain. I can go right back in. Escape once to end it, but stay in the tool. Let's see if there's any others. And notice too, like this wall is a little off. I'm not worried about it. I'll go back and fix it later on in the project. Put in this kitchen wall. And then another interior wall around this pantry. And that would be all of my regular interior walls. These are walls framed out of a 2x4. And for my plumbing walls in these bathrooms, I'm just going to end the command by hitting escape a bunch of times, start the wall tool over, keyboard shortcut WA, and then I'm going to change myself to the plumb wall for the Mount Laurel, with again still level 1 and level 2 as my constraints. And then I'll put in 2 plumbing walls here and hit escape a bunch of times. This one I'm going to try to move a little bit to make a dramatic effect for what my next step will be. So I have all of my walls in at this moment, so I'll hit escape 100 times. I have a few areas where I may have some issues. So notably this corner here in my building, I've got a little bit of a funky issue, as well as this corner here. And then I didn't have an issue here, but I just kind of moved that wall to make a problem for it. So essentially, when I drew these two walls in, it lined up their centers, but because they have different thicknesses, their edges aren't aligned with each other. So what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm going to start the Align tool, which is keyboard shortcut AL to start the tool. And I would recommend having this lock option checked off, just because I most of the time will lock my alignments together. And I'm going to click on the edge of this wall, and then I'm going to click on the edge of this wall, and it's going to bring it down to lock those together. I'll do the same thing over here. So I'm still in the Align tool, but if you have escaped yourself out of it, it is keyboard shortcut AL. I'm going to click on this wall. Notice how I'm not clicking up here. I'm clicking down here on this wall. This is considered this wall technically. So I'll click on the edge of the wall. I'll click on the edge of that one to bring them together. And I'll do the same thing here as I'll click, click. When you're using Align, you want to click on the thing you want to keep in place and then what you want to bring to it. So you'll notice I'll use Control Z to undo that one. I clicked on this wall first, so then when I click on this wall, it brings that one to it. And if I Control Z again to undo that, if I clicked on this wall, it's going to bring this one to it. So the order you select will matter. In this case, it doesn't really matter which one you bring to which, because we will be moving them later on. But at one point, it will matter how we align them. So next I'm going to hit escape 700 times to just end the Align tool as well altogether. And I'm going to start adding in my doors. So again, I have up on a different screen just a copy of my floor plan. So that way I can kind of reference which doors are what sizes. All of our doors in this building are going to have a height of 6'8", but they do have a couple of different widths within the building. So I'm going to go back into my architecture tab, and I'm going to start the door tool by either clicking on door or it's keyboard shortcut DR for it. And we have loaded in some 2-panel bifold doors. So we have one here in this closet as well as this closet. We have 4-panel bifold doors. We have an exterior door, and then we have an interior door with a lot of different sizes going on in it. So let's start with just some of our regular interior doors. So this door here, let's start with our 2'4" wide. So I'm going to find the door that is 6'8" tall, 2'4" wide, which looks like this one will work for us. And then to place it, we can either, depending on which side of the wall you hover on, will depend which way it swings, and you can also use your space bar to change the swing as well. Even after you click, you can change it after the fact with these arrows for it. But let me switch it back. And we're just gonna, excuse me, sorry. We're just gonna eyeball these into place. So I have a 2'4", 6 foot wide door here in the master bath. I have another one for the master walk-in closet. So again, depending on which side of the wall you hover on before you click, and then you can change the swing with the space bar on your keyboard. We have another 2'4" door there. We have another one in this bathroom. Just kind of eyeballing them into place for now. We have another 2'4" for our utility closet for our air conditioning. This is an air handling unit. This one's 3 foot. So I believe those are all of our 2'4" doors. We had one here in the master bath. We had one in the regular bath. We had one in the master walk-in closet, and one for this utility room as well. While I'm still in the door tool, I'm now going to change my door type to just be wider. So I'm going to switch myself over to this 6'8" by 2'8" door. And I'm going to place a door for our master bedroom. Again, just kind of eyeballing it into place. I'll place another one for our other 2 bedrooms. And again, you can use the space bar to flip them. I believe those are all of our 2'8" doors. And then we have a 3-foot wide door for our laundry room. So I'm going to switch my door type to 6'8" by 3 foot. Use my space bar to flip it. And I'll do my last interior single swing door is for this pantry. This pantry is 1'8" by 6'8", which it looks like we don't have a door that size. So this is what we can do. We can pick any one of these interior doors. We're going to go into click on edit type. We are going to duplicate this door and we're going to rename it. So I'm just going to rename it to be 6'8" by 1'8", so that way it's following that same pattern and it'll tell me what door it is. And then I'm just going to adjust its width here to be 1'8". So we always want to make sure we duplicate it first, and then I'll click OK. And now I have a 1'8" by 6'8" door. I'll flip her around. I'll hit escape 100 times. And that's all of my interior regular swing doors. So I'm going to start the door tool again, which is keyboard shortcut DR. For my door type, I'm going to forgot what I said, which one I was going to do, but let's do our exterior ones if I didn't say that. I'm going to just scroll up in my list here to my exterior doors for the Mount Laurel. They're going to be 6'8" by 3 foot. So I'm going to select that as my door type. And then to put that in, I'm going to use my space bar to flip them. And then again, space bar to flip for it. Now for my bifold doors, for my closets, I'm going to switch my door type. Let's do our closets first, the 4-fold one. So those are all going to be 4 foot by 6'8", which it's labeled a little differently, but it's going to do the same thing. So 48 inches by 80 inches is the same as 6'8" by 4 foot. It's just labeled a little different. So I'm going to select that as my option. I'm going to put one here in my entryway closet, one here in this closet, and one here in this closet. And then I have two panel bifold doors, which are both going to be 2 foot wide, which we don't have. We only have a 1'8" one. So I'm just going to select the 1'8" one. I'm going to edit its type. I'm going to scroll down a bit in my properties for my type, and I'm going to change its clear opening to 2 foot instead of 1'8". And then click OK. Now, before I place them, I can also change the symbol to show them being open by changing the panel swing angle. So I'm just going to change that angle to 45 degrees. And then when I place it, it'll show it open. And since I have it hinged technically on the wrong side, I can click on that little arrow to flip it to the other. Would that be the end of the world? Probably not, but this one might be a little too wide. So see this warning that comes in that says it's interfering with my wall? I can hit escape. It's essentially saying, hey, we'll let you put this door here, but it's just kind of weird size for where this wall is placed. But I can just click on that wall and use my arrows to move that wall over. So that way, like, I have enough space for this opening here for it. Whoops. And then again, if I want to change which one of the walls it's on, I can click on it and click those arrows to change it. But it could be hinged on that other side if we wanted it to. And that is our doors. So our next step is we're going to move on to our windows. So we have some double hung windows, as well as some double hung windows. So in our bedrooms here, we have double hung versus in here we have single double hung windows. So we'll focus on all of those windows first, and then we'll come back and do these windows in here. What's going to be a little difficult about placing our windows is the fact that we can't see them at the moment because we have our wall on top of it. So what we're going to do, just so we can see where our windows are for a moment, is I'm going to click on our little visual style cube here, and I'm going to change my visual style to wireframe. So now my wall is see-through and I can see where those windows are going to be going. To start the window tool is keyboard shortcut WN, or you can click on the window button up here in your architecture tab. For this single hung window in this master bedroom, I'm going to click on my properties and I'm going to go to window double hung. Let's see, we want one that is 2'4". So that'd be 30 inches by 3 foot. So we do actually have one that is 2'4" by 3 foot. So I'll switch my window type. I'm going to, before I place it on that wall, just put that symbol towards the outside. And I have a 2'4" by 3 foot window here in this bathroom. We also have the same window in our kitchen right above the sink. So we'll go over here and click as well. And then for our bedroom, our master bedroom, these ones are going to be 2'8" by 4 foot. So let's see if we have one that's that size. It doesn't look like we do. So really it doesn't matter which one we pick. We're going to then go into edit type, duplicate it. Let's see, 2'8" would be 32 inches by 48 inches. The name you give it doesn't really matter. It's just there to help you know what it is. And I'm going to make it 2'8". So 2 space 8 with a height of 4. So I'm just going to type 4 because it always is going to assume that first number is going to be feet. We'll click OK. And I'll place 1, 2 in this bedroom. We have then 2 double hung windows in our in our other bedrooms. So these are double hung. So I'm going to change my window type to be 6 foot, which will be 72 inches, which it looks like we don't have that. We have, well, let's see, is this one? Okay, so the second number is for our width. So we do have a 3 foot by 6 foot, but we don't have a 5 foot by 6 foot, it looks like. So really, I could just choose any one of them. I'll choose this one here. I'm going to go into edit type. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to call this one 60, right? Because that's 5 foot. I believe so. 60. And we'll give it a width of 6 foot with a height of 5 foot. I'll click OK. I'm going to place one in this bedroom and one in this bedroom. And again, I'm just eyeballing these into place. And for our windows here, we are going to potentially need to load a completely new window in. So I'm going to hit escape 100 times. And I'm going to start the load Autodesk family tool. Now, if you didn't load in my keyboard shortcut file at the beginning, what you're going to have to do is go to the Insert tab and then load Autodesk Family here because it doesn't have a keyboard shortcut by default. If you did load in my keyboard shortcut file, all you'll have to do is type LF. You need to be logged in to your Autodesk account in order to make any of this work. And it is free to make your Autodesk account. And let's go to our window options. And then I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to use this window here. Even though it's a little different than the window that the original file has, this is the window I'm going to use. So I'm going to load this one in. I'm going to click on it, load. Now when I go to start the window tool, which again is keyboard shortcut WN, we have a window that is currently 6 foot wide by 53 inches tall. So we're going to need to edit it for our window. So let's edit type. Our width is going to be 8 foot 8. Oops, let me hit cancel. I'm going to edit type. I'm going to duplicate it to be 8 foot 8 by 5 foot. I first need to rename it. And then I'm going to edit its width. I almost forgot. Excuse me again, I'm so sorry. A width of 8 foot 8 and a height of 5. Thank goodness this video is almost over, so that way I'm not sneezing the whole time. And then I'm going to put one window here and then one window over here as well. And I know they look a little bit larger, but just trust the process with me on here. Our last step would be, let's switch our visual style back over to hidden line. So that way our walls are no longer see-through. And let's look at it three-dimensionally. So I'm going to click up here on our 3D view. All of our windows need to have the same header height. And so I'm orbiting around in my 3D view by holding the Shift key and the scroll wheel. If any of your exterior walls are showing the hatch inside, so if when you orbit around, say this wall is blank, but the inside has that pattern on it, it's because that wall is technically inside out. So to flip it, you can just click on the wall and hit the space bar to flip that wall, to have the outside on the out for it. But all of our windows need to have the same header height. So what I'm going to do to be able to change all of them at once is I'll click on one window, and then I'm going to right click and say, select all instances in the entire project. And I might even, actually do a different one because that's only going to select just that type. I'm going to, in my 3D view, just select a whole thing. So I'm just clicking and dragging and just making a box that selects all of my objects. I'm then going to filter out of my selection. So I can click here. I could also click down here, or I could type FF. And I'm going to filter out of my selection. I'm going to say that I only want these 8 windows selected. Click OK. And then in my properties panel, I'm going to change the head height for all 8 of these windows to be 6 space 8, 6 foot 8. And then it's going to adjust all of the windows to have a header height of 6 foot 8. And that will be the stopping point of this video. The next video will go over dimensioning to move all of this stuff into the correct spot. So let's save our work where we have it. So I'm going to click on File, Save. Make sure you are saving it into your flash drive. So I'm going to save mine on my Google Drive because that's where I do on my laptop as my flash drive. I'll go into my assignments. And I'm going to call it BSC 1210 in all caps. My last name in all caps. My first name lowercase dash Mount Laurel. And don't put a dot in between the Mount and the Laurel, please. and you want to save it as an RVT. And then that is your stopping point for this video. The next video will go over adding dimensions to it to move all of our walls and windows into the correct spots.